to be here as we have just witnessed this very beautiful adaptation of August Wilson's esteemed Pulitzer Prize-winning play, The Piano Lesson. So please help me in welcoming the cast and filmmakers of this beautiful film. Up first, Mr. Malcolm Washington. All right, one more time, y'all, for this film. So Malcolm, I'm gonna start with you. I read an interview where you said your dad learned the difference between making a film and being a filmmaker from you. What do you think that means?
Okay. First of all, good to see you. Thank you for seeing the movie and staying for the conversation. I'm not sure. I'm moved by it because I feel like sometimes you do something and it's not necessarily your identity. You're doing it because you're supposed to do it. Somebody told you to do it. Some people go to school like that. I wanted to make my parents proud. I went to college. And there's sometimes you do something and it's part of your purpose. There's something greater than you that's putting you on this divine path to do that thing and to maybe touch somebody or to engage your own purpose in that way. And so I guess when I think about that now, that's what I'm choosing to believe that means, is that there's some greater purpose to me making a film, and maybe through that process, I'll learn something about myself that'll inspire somebody else, or they'll see the film and think of their family or something about themselves that will push them to do something good for somebody else.
So Mr. Denzel Washington, as a custodian of August Wilson's work and your commitment to the Century Cycle, what has struck you the most in how Malcolm and John David have embodied August Wilson's words?
Wow. Well, I've said it before, watching, and I'm not saying it because he's my son, but watching my son make a film, I understood that there's a difference between making films and being a filmmaker. I've made a couple of films as a director, but my son's actually a filmmaker, and it's a difference. I've learned that there's a difference.
What is that difference?
Preparation. Preparation. It's so many things, so many little things, a million little things.
Okay, great. This is for Todd, Katia, and Malcolm. How do you approach the piano lesson with a clean slate? Because your brother and your father, your uncles did this wonderful work on Broadway, but how did you approach it clean? Maybe we start with Todd or Katia.
You go first.
I think we're lucky because we didn't have to approach it clean. I think we got to build upon what was given to us and what our amazing cast and crew had about it already. I think that's part of the advantage.
I think for me, it was getting to listen to Malcolm's vision, which was completely fresh for me. And I remember when Denzel called me and we went to lunch and he said, you need to see this little clip that Malcolm's put together. He has an idea on how to do piano lesson. I'm like, tell me. And he goes, you just need to see this and you need to read kind of what he's been thinking. And so I went into it pretty blinded. And I had seen Malcolm's other things from AFI, which were very impressive. and I've known him since he was in his mother's stomach. So it was pretty cool to go into it really fresh, and you know, Katia had an advantage and Denzel had an advantage that I didn't have, and then I got to see it, and it was a whole other vision that I got to see clearly and uniquely, and it kind of blew me away. It was very cinematic. It was beautiful storytelling, and he was adding things to the play that I hadn't even thought of before when I read it. So I was really surprised and happy, and it was very raw for me. And I knew that, as Denzel said, he was a real filmmaker, and you could tell early on from the material that he was presenting to us on how he wanted to do it. And then I remember getting a call from our executive at Netflix after she met with him. Katia and Denzel and I asked her to meet with him and see if she wanted to make the movie with him, because it was still a job that was up for somebody. And she met with him and she called us and she's like, I am blown away by his vision and I want him to direct this. So it was pretty great to hear this, for me, a brand new vision of it.
I'm curious to just stay with you for a second, because you were not that involved with it, like you said, you kind of had your hands distance. What was the thing that you told Malcolm and the producers, and what would help make this cinematic?
How long do you have? I honestly, he just saw it in a way that Denzel and Katia and I, because we had been involved in Fences, obviously, and in Ma Rainey, which we're super proud about both those films. But Malcolm brought, you know, I never like to use the word opening it up, but he was very, he had a really literate way of making it cinematic and telling the whole ghost story, which is in the play to a point, but it's only just to a point. And you know, there's only so much you can do on stage, and they did it beautifully on stage. But he had a way of telling it that was so cinematic. And the three of us really wanted to make sure that we were able to, you know, build on each movie and pay the respect of August Wilson as the playwright, and at the same time service the film as a film cinematically. And he was able to do that in the way he told us he wanted to, and I think he pulled it off beautifully.
It's actually one of my favorite parts, and I'm curious, Malcolm, what were the notes, if you can be honest? Because, you know, for Black folklore, but really Black life, we view like waking spirits, laying of hands, blessing of houses, very real. Like, it's a very real thing. I know from my family. How did you want to make sure that this was done authentically?
Yeah, there's such a great tradition of spiritual practice in our culture, and these things tell the story of our time in America, where there's spiritual practice that was brought over from Africa. There's the kind of Black Southern Christian tradition that many of us were raised in. And often, as Black Americans, we have to reconcile these two things. And there's certain ritual or superstition that's been carried through and pokes through our own spirituality. And with the end of the film, I knew that I wanted to reconcile these ideas for myself and for the characters in the story, because that's in the story itself. It's inherent to Mr. Wilson's work. It's something that he's wrestled with in his work. So I knew that the end was going to come through belief and spirit. And when I went on that journey, I learned that within all of these things, that these things live in ourselves, and our connection to our ancestors is that bind between that, and that there's so much power in their stories and how much they've endured, and the joy as well as the trauma that they've carried and passed down to us. So that kind of became the triangle, the prism that we viewed the ending into, and that's where we wanted to get to.
To the cast, and especially those who were on the stage adaptation, what cinematic elements were you proud to see come alive on screen that was kind of limited with the stage?
Oh, it's the interiority. which is the richest thing. It's getting to witness the memory, getting to be, in the space of Boy Willie with his father, getting to see the defiance, the resistance that he enacted, to see what they're fighting over, to see what Bernice recalls, why she is in such a stasis. That is the love of her life, who is, and to see the mother, right? To see that movement, that lineage of what is causing this conflict. It is this loss, it is this grief, it is this justice seeking, it is this care for these ancestral folks who are seeking to speak through them, which must move through the piano first. And because they are in this chasm, this moment, the piano is that speaker box for them to come to each other and to be turned inside out within each other in the conflict and to become something new. We gotta play the new version.
How many people ain't ever heard that damn word?
If y'all was good, y'all ain't know.
Bullshit.
I didn't hit you with transmogrification.
I think these are HBCU words. John David and Mr. Jackson, what would you say were what cinematic elements did you love to see come to life?
The land that he's talking about, that his ancestors were sold and bought for. Texture of that, like him in the sort of the passing of the lesson of seeing his father, hold the land, and then seeing him. I love to see that. That and him selling watermelons to white folks. In Pittsburgh, I like to see that.
I do want to try the salt on the watermelon.
It's good.
Oh, it's good? Mr. Jackson, you had the esteemed pleasure of playing Boy Willie. Boy Willie, excuse me. For the original stage play, and now you are in the future playing the uncle. So what for you has been the trajectory of how you've seen Boy Willie and now this role? How does that affect you as someone who's been in this space?
There's a lot of there's a lot of transmogrification. You can't just throw it out there. I had the great privilege to play the original Boy Willie in the Yale production. Only because Charles Dutton was doing Crocodile Dundee 2. And I was also his understudy on Broadway, which led me to rehab, so he got me here. It was great. So watching it happen, when I was told I was going to be Doker on Broadway, I was also told, do not ever speak to John David about Boy Willie. So I did not.
No snitch, John.
You asked, but I ain't saying that. And I went through that, and I remember, sitting there watching Carl when I was being Boy Willie and what that production was. But also knowing that I was going into a situation with a director that I'd known for a long time. And she just told me, take the note, leave me alone, take the note. And I said, okay, fine. So I tried to do that and move on through the play. And getting to the next place with this film and knowing that, things were going to happen or there would be things that we saw. But, we got a 3-hour play, you got to make it sort of 2-hour movie, so what's gonna go? And being in it and watching it happen and feeling it and not missing the things that the play was for me through 2 productions was kind of great. Having seen several different iterations of different characters was really great for me also. I love watching Danielle. You know, the first day I saw her come down the stairs, like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, cool. So that was like, okay, this is gonna be awesome. Try some new shit. Here we go. So getting that and having Cori, who I love. I mean, I've done a couple of films with Cori, so you know, we started calling Cori Black Bauer when we were doing because he was going to be Jack Bauer at 24, so he became Black Bauer for everybody. But brilliant actor, and you know, we honestly, when they were doing Top Dog Underdog, we couldn't see it because we were working. But I also knew that Cori was that guy that we needed, and you know, that production. Not that we didn't have a good one, but Cori's a different kind of energy that's genuine for all of us because he's like one of our brothers and we love him. And we had a great family of people when we did the play, and we had a great family of people when we did this film also, which is great because now you got a great family of people who are the crew and all these other people that you see every day that, you know, you interact with. And they become part of that whole family of people that we deal with, the way they put our clothes on us, the way they watch us, the way they participated or just stood there wrapped and watching the things that we did when we were doing them. You know, film's difficult because you don't have that immediate feedback you have from the audience when you're doing the play. When we're on stage, we can feel them sigh, we can hear them laugh, we can hear them, you know, mumble or say something back to us. We feel all that energy. When you're on a film set, it's quiet. You know, people don't applaud when you finish. You kind of, shit, I know I killed it, man. So there are things that you want that you don't get when you're doing that, but we gave it to each other because we were there. And it was great seeing each other every day.
When you talked about the family aspect, I want the people who are not who do not have the last name Washington to answer this. But what was it like? Because this was a Washington production. This was a family production. What was it like? Is this unique in Hollywood that you would come on set?
Wow, all y'all looking at me. This is one of the best experiences I've had of my professional film and TV life. And I truly mean it. Me and the guys, we've been rolling together and talking about all kinds of stuff, the personal experiences, the ancestral lineage and whatnot. And you don't get experiences like this often, you know? It was 6 to 8 weeks of pure joy, rigor, discipline, love. Nature was speaking often. It was lightning during pivotal moments, pivotal spiritual exercises and exorcises in doing the work. And that speaks volumes, you know? This is not just, you know, it's not just art, it's life. And that's why we do it. And I mean, it's about you are coming into a family. This is the Washingtons, but then it is something much more amorphic that begins to happen when you are on set with people every day and somebody is literally caring for you, the tactile nature of them holding you, the care that somebody has and knowing your lines even when you have a lapse or choking on you or picking on your feet or all of these things. Like that's what family does. And so that is what was made in this process.
And another thing, I've known Denzel forever. I mean, we met in New York in
1981?
Yeah. So we were in the touring company at the Public Theater together doing plays in the park. In fact, Denzel was the understudy for the lead villain in the play, and the lead villain got fired opening night, and he had to go on. Got the best reviews in the world. Who is this dude? We've been together through Soldier's Play and a whole bunch of other stuff. And before these kids were born, so by the time they were born and we started seeing them, we were all part of this one big family anyway that we were in New York doing what we were doing. Denzel was in and out of that because he was doing St. Elsewhere and things, and then we were all cheering for him to get to where he was going to get, and watching other people do it and watching these kids grow and have their lives in another kind of way before they came into this part of the business that his wife, my wife, and us were all part of in doing. So they grew up around a bunch of people who were artists doing arty stuff, even though they had another thing. And then when they finally fell into this place, I mean, I was with Katia through Quentin. She started, when I first saw her on set, I was like, what you doing here? She was working for Quentin. I was like, oh, okay. So, we got in that way, and then, he stopped doing what he was doing and found his way into this business, and we talked about it a little bit. Tanya talked to him about it a lot. And then next thing I know, we were just talking about movies and hanging out, and I watch a lot of Mayhem. He doesn't watch it. He's a chump. But we talked about it, and next thing I know, he's directing me. So it's but understanding that through the connections and through our backgrounds in theater and the kind of people that we were in theater with, I never worked with James Earl, but I knew him, and I worked with his dad. Mm-hmm. So you meet people and you know their families, or like Chuck Cooper and his kids were, theatrical, wonders and doing stuff. So everybody has these kids that do things, and my daughter's in TV. But the family thing, the whole thought of what do they call it?
Transmogrification.
Transmogrification of people's kids doing what they do comes through in a way that these families unite, and there's no worry about them succeeding or becoming who they need to become, because they come from a place of a bunch of people that are successful people. So you know what success is, and it's not easy. It's not, you didn't just walk in here and get it. You say, okay, you want to do it, we'll help you do it, but you got to do it like this. You got to have a real toolkit. You can't just walk in and say you want to build a house because you got a hammer. Or you come from somebody who got a hammer and some tools, So everybody's insistent upon them being the best they can be, because, it's like folk used to tell us when you leave this house, you represent us. So we be about that when we come to them, when we sing. So when they left our company, you said, y'all represent us, so you better go out there and kick some ass.
Yeah.
For me, it was interesting because I've known, and Denzel and I have been friends and partners for 30 years, I think. And I knew him before Malcolm and his sister Olivia were born, but I knew John David when he was little, and Katia, and they're all still little to me, which is weird. But anyway, as Sam said though, they worked for this. Katia and I have done, I don't know how many movies together now, 4 or something like that, and she's the real deal. I learned from her, he learns from her. She's serious and so smart, it's remarkable to me. And John David, to just watch him from where he started to now, I'm the white papa that I'm very proud of. and then, as I said about Malcolm, from AFI to, this is his first movie, you guys. It's just unbelievable.
And let me just throw in, they would not be who they are without the real producer, Paulette Washington. Get back in the house now.
I'm glad you brought that up. Good evening, Miss Pauletta Washington. At the end of the film, it's dedicated to Mama. And there is, I saw the play on Broadway, but I guess I must have missed this part, the scene with Lyman, and I think Ray Fisher is in the house. Lyman and Danielle. right. Where Lyman is respectfully pushing up on you. But you have a beautiful monologue about ain't I woman enough? Can I be woman enough without a man? But I'm curious, I did not read August Wilson's written word, but was those words there? And then tell us about the power in saying it now, because I feel like those words could have been written in 2024, especially what's going on in the world. That monologue was so moving. Speak for women, and especially Black women.
We haven't gotten this question, have we? Yeah, that's the one with Avery, with Cori.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that's a moment. Because it's tender. We've talked about this. We talked about this a lot because she's trying to measure how to keep the potential something for upward mobility still in cahoots with her and not totally push it away, but temper it, because she is still holding to the past and yet is reckoning with moving to the future, but only tiptoeing, right? Not wholeheartedly moving into it. And yet the things that are coming out of his mouth are not exactly what she wants to hear quite yet. He's pushing her, and so that pushes out the defense, the resistance. The body is not immediately receiving this person because it looks good on paper.
Good man. He's a good man, Bernice.
Until he say what he say. And the body speaks, right? All of this is about the spirit. And so if the body is doing a thing, then it's yielding to the spirit. That's hence why when it does come to the time for the body to yield, the body yields. So
Tell the truth.
Transmogrification. But it feels volcanic to say it, quite honestly, because we always Black women want to say what they need to say. You can do it in a domestic space. You don't necessarily get to do it in the public space always, because you're trying to uphold and be erect and be pulled and present in a particular way.
Good dude loses to the fuck boy.
I want to shift it to Boy Willie.
That ain't what the spirit wants.
Yeah, roughneck.
John David and Malcolm, Boy Willie's grief of losing his father and his blind ambition to become a Black man determined to own land drives the film. But when we hear Bernice's resolve on why she won't sell the piano, it's rooted in the pain she witnessed from her mother. In the end, was it really the explosion of Sutter's spirit, or was it something else that brought Boy Willie his empathy?
He's going through spiritual warfare. I mean, this is a man, it's not in the film, but August Wilson has written how he's overcome death. He has the power of death too, like these white people. He's not scared. It's his American right to reclaim the land that his family was sold, bought on, and cultivated into generational wealth. If he doesn't do it, maybe he's dead. Maybe he's dead anyway. So this is a man that maybe is yielded to, or at least humbled himself enough to understand the power of his ancestry. I think he sees his sister as as strong as his father. I think he admires her. I think all he wants is her approval. Maybe before he dies. Maybe because he's going home, and that might not be a good thing. Maybe he doesn't even really want to sell it necessarily, but he just wants her love and her forgiveness. So that exorcism you see in his he relinquished the weight of whatever he was going through is in that moment, and lived in that exchange between the two.
Katia, Malcolm, I don't know if you guys can answer this, but this film is so beautifully set in the 30s, but then we're kind of brought back to the future with Fela and Frank Ocean with the music. Tell us about, maybe start with Katia, the choice to make the music contemporary that you sometimes hear in the film.
Yeah, it was really a choice Malcolm made because he wanted it to feel as relevant when you're watching it and listening to it as it feels when you read it. It feels fresh, like you were talking about Bernice speaking in that powerful dialogue that they have. It feels current, and it is current, and it takes a journey from African music to American music to contemporary music to really ground and to kind of reflect back how current the work still is.
Exactly that. I mean, in one of the crucial kind of approaches in adaptation wasn't to mimic the play. It was to interpret it. It was to learn about Mr. Wilson and his intentions with this play and his other works, and honor the spirit of that, right? So he deals so much with time and space. He's concerned with the Hill District. He's concerned with Black American experiences of different decades. He's concerned with migration from south to north, from Africa to America. He's concerned with these things, and he's concerned with music. So I think my interpretation of that was to connect the diaspora and the experiences of Black people across space and time in that way. So we touched, as Katia said, West Africa. We touched the UK with Black music in the UK. We come through the islands, come to America, so that when this movie is viewed by all these different people from different age ranges and different demographics, they could see and connect to it in some way, if nothing else, spiritually, emotionally, to the music of it. And I think the music's good. I think it's exciting.
Like Erykah Badu's a legend.
Yeah.
Like she's.
Yeah.
The dancing was, who was the choreographer?
This woman called Dacia, she was amazing. And even that, right? So when we started researching this film, we went to Pittsburgh, of course. And in that research, we learned that there was a watering hole called the Crawford Grill, and that this was like a center of the community there. And we're like, okay, we gotta honor that. So we kind of set this whole thing up so that we could have this sequence, and called Erykah Badu. Didn't even think she'd pick up the phone. And she did, and we got to honor these people that lived in this place. That's a real place, a real people, you know? I think so much of this film for me was about community. It was about a community coming together to honor another community in as many ways that we could bring reverence to, a spotlight on, and honor a community and show themselves in the screen. We tried to do that.
So last question, and it's for Mr. Denzel Washington. What makes
I got
August
some
work?
smart kids, don't I?
You do. What makes August Wilson's work so timeless?
Tennessee Williams, Edward Albee, Arthur Miller, Eugene O'Neill, August Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. The piano